Hello again, this is the boy in his Bible, and hello again, this is the boy in his Bible, the Christian and his witness is the discussion today. But let me just mention something that I referred to in number 3. I said that rich men need to know what it means to be what's the word I'm looking for? The rich men detached. Right, I'm going to start this one again.
Yeah, go for it.
So, number 4. The 4 Christian, number 2. Hello again, it's Robert Hicks, the boy in his Bible, and we're talking about the Christian and witness. And this is quite a big subject, but it's an important one. However, I want to do a kind of supplement to something I said in the previous talk on the Christian. I mentioned how rich men who have lots of money coming into their lives must live as if they're not rich. Now that you might have got the impression that I today am rich. And let me tell you that if you need financial help, you're coming too late. Because I've had the privilege of being disconnected in my 8 years from much of the assets that I built up over the years, and that's gone into Christian work. But today we're talking about witness, and it's proclaiming a person, explaining the truth, sharing a love, witnessing constantly, witnessing personally, and witnessing collectively. They are the headings. If you ever do get the book, the Christian Truth, or the Open Bible book, and you'll see the writings on these subjects that I've been talking on, you also have to remember that it was Richard Bewes, the minister of All Souls Langham Place in London, that was the great help and the main writer of this book. I believe I made the major contribution in terms of the analytical side, but I think it was Richard's skill at writing that made the book. The series of books that came out, there was 10 of them, nearly 500,000 of them went to Campus Crusade in the United States. Nearly 500,000 went into Germany for youth work that was there, translated, and there's been various other translations. I think maybe 3 or 4 million of them have been distributed in one form or another. They've been proved to be successful as a Bible teaching. So if you haven't had a copy, you don't have a copy, then at the end of this series, I will talk a bit about that. The Christian has no right to try and proclaim their denomination as a means by which people can get saved. The Christian has a glorious, big picture to give to people, but it's in a person. It's Jesus Christ. When we dilute from the person of Jesus Christ, it's less of a gospel. If we want to share the gospel, we are sharing the person of Jesus Christ. Now, for some people, this starts from their experience. That's very subjective experience. They can't explain logically the reality of Jesus coming into their lives and making their life so much different. But we also have it objectively. We see that Christ is in us, the experience, in our daily lives, in the difficulties of life, in the problems of life. We are always proclaiming a person. And that is both objectively and it is subjectively, both mentally and emotionally. It's the entire you, body, mind and spirit that is there. And if you sin and make mistakes, you have to go and say sorry and repent and get right with God. But it's a person. If we have 8 billion people on this planet, and if we have, I don't know, let's say 2 million people who claim an allegiance in some way to Jesus, wouldn't it be wonderful if those 2 billion talked about Jesus today to somebody else? We'd have revival in the world, wouldn't we? We'd have the growth like it happened in the first 500 years. After the Second World War, the average English person that I got to know didn't want to talk about politics, military, or religion. Although in the war the churches was full, after the war the churches began to get empty, and that decline has continued. Times of revival has taken place, but overall there's been a decline in the Western world. They've rejected Christianity in the same way they've rejected politics and the work of the military. It's therefore more important that you become a witness proclaiming Jesus Christ. And in that process, we explain the truth. Now, because I've had an experience, I can explain that, but I need to reinforce that with the truth. The truth is the word of salvation. The truth is learning the Bible teaching. I have found when I do my witnessing, and whether I was on a bus, every time I'm on a bus, nearly every time I talk to somebody or talk to people just in everyday life, I normally have something in the Bible that day that I've read. And so my line of opening to them would be, by the way, I was reading today so-and-so. I remember once when I was going to do some advice to a large biscuit company in London. It was called Crawford's Biscuit Company. Big, very big people are doing biscuits. And when I got there, the executive I was meeting said, "Very sorry, Robert, we're going to have to cut this meeting short because we've got a strike on." Now that day I'd been reading the Living Bible, words of how servants and masters need to work together. And I said, "That's funny, I've just been reading about that in a very ancient book. Before I go, would you like me to read it to you?" So I took out my New Testament, always carried New Testament, and Psalms and Proverbs, and I read the pieces of Paul where he talks about, and they said, "Oh, if only we had that to be able to give to both the bosses and the workers." Isn't that funny? An ancient document. If we know the truth, and if you know the truth, like knowing Jesus, it will set you free and give you the confidence that you have to talk about Jesus. So we explain the truth. Now, we don't explain the truth dogmatically. I've only ever done that once, and I have regretted it. We explain the truth. There is a sensitiveness to us, and neither do we belittle the other person. They've been made in the image of God like you. We don't belittle them. And we don't belittle their experience or their religion or their faith or whatever they've got in them. What we do is explain the truth. And we do it by sharing the love of God. We have a few of our neighbours who have experienced the love of God, mainly through my wife, and before that, my first wife. I found that home life so often it's the women who share the love of God to neighbours and friends. And we've had various meetings in the house. We've had Alpha courses, for instance, and we've also had a meal with a message and things like that. And we also have a monthly lunch for the neighbours in a community hall that is run by the Anglican churches that we support. And what we're trying to do is share a love. I'll just talk about one person. But by the table with our soup, and she brought with her daughter, and we talked about Bibles. I was a publisher, so we talked about Bibles. And the time I'd spoken to her before, she was negative to Christianity. But because I gave them time, as much time as they wanted, and talked about them, the hearts were melted towards Christianity. And both of them took away with them the Quick and Easy Bible that we do, that's an introduction to the Bible for first time, as well as for regular readers to be reminded. We witness consistently. We don't witness by saying, I've gone to church, I must witness for somebody now after church. By all means do that. But we witness Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Wherever we meet people and there's an opportunity in love to talk about Jesus sensitively to them, that opportunity is ours. And the opportunities are there much more than you think. Did you know that the average Christian misses 1 million opportunities in their life for not talking about Jesus? Well, that's an exaggeration, but I hope you get the point. We also witness personally. It is interesting, the Apostle Paul, in the Acts of the Apostles, gave his personal testimony, I think 3 times, or was it 4? Personal testimony. And one of the things I like when we have baptisms in our church, they all give their personal testimony. I've always wondered why our church and other churches, in their main evening programs or morning programs on a Sunday, they don't have regular testimonies, different testimonies from different people. If people give their testimony in public, it will help them to give their testimonies personally to other people. In other words, it's not only a blessing for the fellowship then, it's also a blessing for other people afterwards. That's a hint, obviously, to our pastors and leaders. But we also witness collectively. This is where a church gets together, and it can be a small church or a large church, and that church together has taken people from all around them, but too far away to witness together. So you have to work harder. You have to think of programs in which the church as a whole can be working together. Now, let me tell you that every time I've seen a program, there's only been a few people volunteer to join it. And that is sad. If you're in a church, then all the people around that church should be your foreign missionary work. Not only the people where you live around your home, but your missionary work should be the church collectively. So we witness collectively. It says that when Peter stood up, he stood up with the 12. Can you imagine that? There's this great number of people at Pentecost. And then Peter gets up, and as he gets up, he has the support of the 11 other people, all standing up as he spoke to them. And the witness was a collective one. You find door-to-door work comes easier if there's 2 of you. You find if you have the opportunity to speak in the open air, to be a few of you there to be of help. Collectively. But if it's a local church, you need a lot of prayer and organisation. But that is something that we're called to do. It's proclaiming a person, it's explaining the truth, it's sharing a love. And we do it personally, and we do it collectively. That's the story from the handbook concerning witness. It's a boy in his Bible here with a final question. Do you witness? Do you proclaim your Saviour and your friend? Bye for now.